Sid, thank you so much for being here and for supporting Brad.
Well, we have a good looking stage today. Thank you guys for coming up and filling the space. So I'm going to jump in, hit my point, and jump back out because I want to hear from everybody. I love this topic. And one of the things that I've actually done, believe it or not, like there's not a lot of books that I've read cover to cover from the beginning to the end, maybe a handful. Now, a couple books I've read cover to cover, or pieces of it, dozens and dozens of times. But one of them was What's Your Why by Kent Burns. I don't even think it's in print anymore, but it was the book that hit for me on what your why really means. And so I've got a book summary. I've thrown it into the chat. The link will capture your information so I can just send you these two PDFs. I've got 6 pages that I wrote, just a summary of the book, What's Your Why? And then the second part of it is the working questions that I take people through. So here's the thing about everything that you started this room with, Victoria, on What's Your Why. What are your inner motives? What are your interests? What needs to be clarified, harnessed for your optimal self development in your career and your life? Knowing your why, I'm just kind of now I'm going to read a couple things from the summary that I highlighted that I think are pretty important to catch, and then I'll send this to anybody that fills out the link. There's nothing to sell. I'm just going to send you this document that I put together, which is a really easy read. A book summary, actually. So, What's Your Why by Kent Burns. And in there it said, knowing your why will enable you to pursue a path towards a more meaningful life, meaningful for you, right? Finding your why is like going on a treasure hunt. The treasure is there, but it's not always easy to find. And the main idea is first, you have to understand that you definitely have one. Everybody has one. And it's not going to show up on the surface. This was what the book really brought to my attention. Like you may think you found it. I've taken people through why exercises, Victoria. I know you've definitely done this exercise, and probably a lot of other people, taking people through their why. And you think you found it. However, if you dig a little deeper, you'll actually start finding out what your core why really is. And that's what I want to stress today is there's a core why that's probably 5 to 6 to 8 layers deeper than when you think you found your why. So, like what Victoria was talking about earlier about not losing the weight or feeling overwhelmed or getting things done or getting a project in place. The reason why that's happening is you found a surface why, but you didn't find the real why. You didn't dig deep enough. And Kent Burns says there's 3 big questions, and you got to write these answers on paper. So, what do you think about? What do you spend your time on? What do you spend your money on? And when you start peeling back the onion layers a little further to find out what your core why is, you just keep asking more questions. What am I passionate about? What are my biggest fears? Here's one of my favorites. If you had a second chance to live your life, would you keep, what would you keep and what would you change from the first go around? And then the best one of all, if you knew you could not fail, what would you be doing? So don't always accept the first response that you get on these, but challenge yourself to keep digging deeper. In fact, I'm going to layer this in there because when you figure out what your deep core why is by asking these extra questions, man, you translate that into understanding other people's whys and taking them through these same questions in real estate, for example. If I really want to get somebody to sell their house at the right price or buy the right property, right, and not lie to me after I show them 25,000 homes and then they buy something totally different, you got to understand what their why is and keep bringing that up. So like when in our industry, it's like somebody's going to overprice their property. But if I know their why is to move to Florida from Kansas City to move to Florida so they can be with the grandkids this Christmas and have Christmas with their grandchildren in their own living room like they used to do back in the day with their kids, then that's what I'm going to tag on to. So Is leaving the price and sitting on the market more important than being in Florida this Christmas and having Christmas with your grandchildren, opening presents in front of you this year? Like, you can be there. We're a few months away. You can have your house sold and moved into the new place. That's going to get them to be more realistic on the price that they really will accept. So understand people's why. And here, I'm going to give you the basic couple of really simple ones. Whenever you ask a question and I say dig deeper, here's a great question. Tell me more about that. Another one is, well, what do you mean by that? So they answer and they go, well, we want to be in Christmas, in Florida by Christmas. Well, what do you mean by that? Oh my gosh, our grandchildren are so lovely. Now, for all the coaches in the call, you're going to love this one, and you've heard this before. When they answer the question, we want to be in Florida to be with our grandkids for Christmas. Just go, uh-huh, and don't say anything else. And they just keep going, and they start going layer after layer after layer. So motivating the why it's the art that must be honed by doing. And Victoria said that earlier, that you still have to take action. There is no magic formula. So sharing the why is critical to unleashing the power inside you and your people. When you've got to make other people's why your why, and when you're working, but you also need to understand what your why is first and really go through that exercise. So that's what creates that why. That's really where I just had an eye-opening understanding of the why, and it's digging 6, 7, 8, 9 layers deep until you get to the core. So that is my share for today.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start with that, Brad. That is so. I'm so glad you shared that. I am so glad you shared that. It's getting to that core why. You have to go that 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So right. And the questions are: what's your fear? What are you afraid of? What it is that you want? Asking the right questions. And there is some value in going through this with someone. There really is. Because sometimes we're just surface. It's kind of like I want to make a lot of money. Why do you want to make a lot of money? Because I want to buy a house. Why do you want to buy a house? And typically your why, when you get down to the core, it comes down, and Brad, I think you can agree with that. It always comes down to a feeling. It comes down to a feeling. I love my grandchildren. I want to be in Florida with them, whatever it takes. I love them. I want to make the money because I want the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I want the freedom to be able to donate and give to others, to rise others. Your why always comes down to a feeling. And sometimes you got to go kind of deep to get to that feeling that why is going to do. Because as human beings, we really live and thrive on experience. It's what we feel, right? Thoughts become emotions, emotions become actions, actions become behaviors. But it has to start with, what do you feel? And you just got to keep digging. And that's when you get to that core. Is when you get to that emotion you're trying to get. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brad. That's a great exercise. Anybody who wants to go through it, I would highly suggest you do it. And with that,